Hello, good evening, students. So, this is Madhuri from St. Peter's Engineering College. So, we are today. I'm going to introduce about the second unit. Okay, the first unit is a very short unit. So, we are going to the second unit. Second unit is a typical embedded system. Okay. Why it is called a typical embedded system? So, embedded system is nothing but it is a combination of hardware and software which is used to do a particular task. Okay, particular task. The task will be related to application and domain specific, means only a particular task. It will not do the other task which is not of its concern. Okay, so where we are using embedded systems in everywhere, all of our digital home appliances we are using embedded system. Okay, so here typical embedded systems are domain and application specific. This domain and application specific word is very important. In the first unit, we have discussed what is this domain and application specific. Suppose, example, a washing machine is there. What is a washing machine? What is the application of the washing machine? Is to wash the clothes and dry up and give you. But it could not do another task which is not at all related. Like it cannot cook food, or it cannot do any other like AC. That is not its application. What is a domain given to them only to do only this application? It will not take more than one application, only one application, that is also domain specific, which is ask them to do that only it will do. No different task cannot be done, but more number of tasks within the domain can be done by the embedded system. So washing machine will wash the clothes, AC will give you cooling. Like that, every embedded system will have a specific application, and it is domain specific also. So that's why we are calling embedded systems are domain and application specific, and they are built across around a central core. So what is the core here? Core is nothing but what are the main origins of the embedded system? What all the main things should be there so that the embedded system is playing a major role. Okay, so what is the main parts? What are the main parts? Okay, what is the main functions of the embedded system devices which are used eh, which are used for better performance of the embedded system? Okay, so these are some devices. The core of the embedded system falls under category of first one is general purpose and domain specific processors. That's why just now I have discussed, na? So it should have, it will be used for the general purpose, and it also have some domain specific processors which is used to do some particular application. Okay, so they are domain specific application. So here in general purpose and domain specific, we are using some devices which are very important. Without this there is no embedded system. Okay, of course, a microprocessor and microcontroller and digital signal processor, these three should be there, then only we can call it is a proper general purpose and domain specific processor. Okay, if you take a washing machine, you will have a processor inside, controller inside, digital signal processor inside. Okay, everything will be there. In every device, you will have a basic these three. And also there are some other applications, application specific integrated circuits, programmable logic devices, commercial off the shelf components. Okay, where you will find these are all the devices which is fixed for the embedded system to perform well. Okay, So this should, if any embedded system, any device you take, these are the basic components of the embedded system. So that's why we are calling it as core of the embedded system. Okay. Next. So we discuss about general purpose and domain specific. So every embedded system will have either processor or controller based upon the use. Okay. So it may be a digital signal processor also, but the basic thing is processor or controller should be there. First of all, we will know what is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. What is a very important 2 marks question, and generally everyone should know what is the difference between processor and controller, because it's very important and very basic. The students should know about this, because it should, as a easy student, you should know this difference, and this is very important one also. Okay, so microprocessor or a microcontroller. You have studied MPMC in third year, right? So who know MPMC, they should know what is processor and controller, of course. Okay, so a processor is a silicon chip representing a CPU. So it is an on-chip device, whereas microprocessor is an off-chip device. Means here in a processor, what all the other devices, everything is built inside. When you buy it, it is already inbuilt in the CPU. It will represented inbuilt in a silicon chip. No need to add any external device. It is on chip. Okay. Whereas in a processor, whereas a controller, it is a dependent one. It should require some combinations. Like you should have a memory, timer, and you should have some interrupt controller also. Okay, so that you can add so many of devices in that, and it is not inbuilt. You can add many devices to that. So both has equal importance, because both are very fast in functioning. But in a processor in a processor or a controller, the speed should be high. Okay, so in the off-chip processor, we can have more number of devices, because we can combine any device to it. So we can have a timer, interrupt controller and all. So these are the basic knowledge of processor and controller. Next. So this is the development of microprocessor. We have Intel 404, Intel 4040, and Intel 808. These are all the starting one. Once they have introduced this microprocessor in the market, starting these were the microprocessors which was used long back, 1971, 1947, and 1974, like that. So Motorola they used to use some processor called Motorola 6800. Okay, like that there are many. These are few important microprocessor are there. There are so many are there. These are very important among all. Okay. Now coming to the architectures, what we are using for this processor design are hardware or no von Neumann. Hardware, hardware, hardware or von Neumann. This is the name of a scientist called von Neumann, and another person is the hardware. Hardware. It is nothing but the design of a processor architecture, how it should be placed, how the processor should be placed, how the data should be transferred to the processor, how should it go inside and come out. Okay, what all the devices we have to use. This comes under the architecture. So only processor is there, but there is no architecture, means waste. So you should have some architecture. Architecture is a design of a building. Like that, it is a design for a processor also, so that we will use the processor correctly. Okay, so the design should be there. So there are two types of designs are there, Harvard and von Neumann. There is no much difference. It is nothing but only depends upon the memory, because in hardware architecture you will have separate buses for instructions for data fetching. What is a bus? Bus is nothing but a information carrying center. Okay, so bus is consists of so much of information that will be carried to the another device. So so in hardware architecture we will have a separate bus, one for getting the information, one for sending the information. Okay, so that is only it is saying it has separate bus for instructions as well as data fetching. Okay, it will give, one bus will give the instructions, one bus will take the data from the others. Okay, fetching the data. Whereas in von Neumann, it is on a single bus. It shares single bus. In that, using one bus, we are using, we are sending the instruction and we are getting the instructions. Okay. So next point in hardware is easier to pipeline. So high performance can be achieved. Pipelining is nothing but fetch, decode, execute. We need to first bring the data, execute, and decode again. Okay. So this will be very easy in pipeline because we are using separate buses. So there is no much confusion. Okay. Whereas here in a von Neumann, there is only a single bus. Only single bus is doing so much of multitask. So it will, the performance will be little comparatively slow. Okay. Okay. And this Harvard architecture is cost is high and it is cheap. Okay. And also very important point is here in hardware, data memory and program memory are physically in different locations. So if you want to corrupt the data, there is no chance. Okay, because we have a separate buses. Okay, so and also we will have a separate memory also. But in the von Neumann, the data and program memory both will be saved in the same chip. Same. So if some disturbance happened, both will be gone. Okay, so that is a drawback of this von Neumann. Okay, so what is the difference? Hardware is will have separate bus for getting the instructions and getting the data, giving the instructions or getting the data. Whereas von Neumann, it will have a same bus for instructions and for getting the data. Pipelining is easy there, pipelining is hard here. Okay, performance is high there, performance is low in hardware. It is costlier, it is cheaper. Data and program memory will saved on the same chip? No, it will not be same chip in hardware. Okay, whereas in von Neumann, it is on the same chip. Okay, these are the basic 5 differences of hardware and architecture in von Neumann. If you see the diagram for this, so this is the diagram for von Neumann versus hardware. So here we have a CPU and a code memory, program memory. See, program memory, code memory will be separate. Okay. Suppose this program memory is not there, only you have a CPU and code memory, then it becomes hardware architecture. Only that CPU will be sending the data and getting the data. Okay, but in hardware we will have a separate program memory and code memory separate. Okay, so that's why there is no loss of data. Okay, next. So next difference, this is the also very important, RISC and CISC. What is RISC? reduced instruction set computing. Okay, CISC is complex instruction set computing. Okay, so it is nothing but the way of instructions we are sending to the device, that they have categorized into two parts, reduced and complex. That's it. So if you want to send less number of instructions, you will use this RISC. If you want to use more number of instructions, then you go for CISC, complex. Complex is nothing but greater number of instructions, large number of instructions. That is the difference. Next here, and also of course the instructions pipelining, everything speed will be very high here because the instructions are very less. But here there is no exist of instructions pipelining features. That is the main difference in CISC. Next is orthogonal instruction set. They will operate in any register because they have an address. Suppose if you are sending some instructions to a data, it will register and it will give you the address also. But on this non-orthogonal set, instructions are not allowed. They will not allow to operate any other registers. Okay, that is the main difference. Next is operations are performed on registers only. Only memory operations are load and store. So whatever we are doing operation, that will be performed on registers. Okay, and memory locations are load and store. Whereas operations are performed either on registers or memory, depending upon the instructions given. Okay, so here we are using a large number of availability of registers because whatever the data we want to send to the RISC, all will be saved in the registers. After that we will send to a addressing mode for them. That is the thing. Whereas here CISC we have a very limited registers, very limited data is used. Okay, so this is reduced instruction set, complex instruction set computing. These are all the instructions which we are using in microprocessor and microcontroller. Okay, next, of course the same difference. Programmer need to write more code to execute a task. Okay, since instructions are very simple one, we need to write some code also. Here there is no need to write code because the instructions are very great. So the programmer should achieve the functionality with a single instructions only. Okay, and here it is single fixed length instruction, it is variable. Why it is variable? Because it is a very complex device, complex instructions. Okay, next, so this is about again a microcontroller. So microcontroller is an integrated chip which will contain a CPU, scratch pad, RAM, special and general purpose registers, arrays. Okay, it is an on-chip flash or ROM memory. It has so many things. Okay, so here the controller, some embedded systems we require 8-bit controllers, whereas we may require some for 16 or 32-bit controllers. Okay, so here the instruction set of the microcontrollers, it can be a RISC or CISC. Any type of instruction set it can take. Okay, so it is an inbuilt device, on-chip device, which have everything inside inbuilt. Okay, and these microcontrollers are designed for general purpose application requirements as we have discussed before in, okay, or domain specific application requirement. So this microcontroller, we are calling it as on chip processor, okay, integrated chip with the silicon, and also contain all the registers, memories, timers, everything will be there in that, okay. That is about the microcontroller. Next, of course, digital signal processors. So these are very important and very special purpose processors which are used to design. They are used to design computational demands and power constraints. Suppose audio and video communication applications. So signal anangane, so signal means we need to tell about audio and video. Right? If the signal is not there, if no one can listen you. Huh? Video, no one can see you. Right? So here the signals are very important, mainly for the communication appliances. Okay. So what we will use in this digital signal process, we will use processors. General processors, that should be 2 to 3 times fast. Okay, then only the signal will be very strong. It can do the application very properly. Okay, whereas this, and also this digital signal processors, they can implement algorithm in hardware, and also they can speed up execution also should be very fine. But here in the general purpose process, the algorithm is in software. So that is the problem. Speed of execution, we need to have a clock for that. Okay, so that is the main difference between the general purpose processor. DSP is for hardware and general purpose for software. When they do combined up properly, we will have a general digital signal processors. But mostly we need to have a special functions, special applications for doing all this. Okay, so mostly we will use digital signal processors for first communication purposes, for signal purposes, for audio and video, satellite, everything we need to have signal processors. Okay, so here what does the DSP includes? It should have a program memory, data memory, computational engine, input output. What is the program memory? The digital signals processor should have a memory for storing the program, whatever the data we send. After that, the working model of the program should be there in the data memory, because the code will be converted again into a data. That data should be there in the data memory. It is indirectly a working model of the device. It may be in a data or it may be in terms of signal. Okay, computational design is nothing but, here we are giving some arithmetic units, plus or minus, or some other calculations which is related to the instructions that will be stored, and also it will increase indirectly the execution speed. Means once the program is dumped, it will tell you how much of time it will take, and also it will see that the execution speed is increased. Okay, and also it has some shifters for shifting from one operand to the another, means one instructions to the another instructions. So computational engine is nothing but overall working execution of the process, and also it will see that the execution speed is high. Okay, next is the input or output unit. Of course, this is an interface between the world and the DSP. Okay, it is used for capturing signals. It should be used for delivering the signals like audio, video, signal processing, telecommunication, multimedia. audio visual signal processing, if we are sending the input, the electrical will be sent as an electrical signals will pass as a digital signals, which we are seeing as an audio and video signals. So this input and output unit is an interface between the outside world and DSP. Okay, and it can capture the signal, it can deliver the signal also. That is the main use of this input or output units. Okay, so with this we will stop this session. Thank you. Hello. Hello, good evening students. I am Madhuri from St. Peter's Engineering College. So today we will discuss about the second unit. Already we have started a second unit in last videos. So we are already started first topic, that is nothing but core of the embedded systems, right? So in the core of the embedded system we have discussed about microcontroller, microprocessor, general purpose specific integration circuits, okay, and digital signal process, right? So these are the three main parts of the embedded system, means domain, related to domain parts of the embedded systems, where every design will be made by using this core systems only. Next comes, this is also one of the core. Okay, so next one is the application specific integrated circuits. So it is also like microcontroller or a processor, it is also a chip, it is also a microchip, which is defined, which is used to perform a specific and unique applications, same like embedded systems. If you want to apply any unique or specific application, you can use this. That's why the name it is called application specific integrated circuits. Okay, so here most of the circuits we will use in the Raspberry files also. Okay, this ASIC single chip, it has very high power but very small area, it will fit into a system. Okay, because if you see any embedded system and if you see the area part of the ASIC, it is very small area in the total system, but it is doing lot of work because it is having high capacity of functionality. Okay, so ante small, it looks small but do the big things. Okay, it's small microchip, like you have a nano SIM, right? Same like that it looks. It is used to do some, it is, we are using that chip for doing some applications specific related terms, and we are using to send the data to perform this particular specific application things. Okay, here when we are developing these chips, it may be related to the internal detail, means how much of RAM we need, how much of RAM, how much of memory, external memory we need. According to that we will use this ASIC applications. Okay, but without this there is no embedded system, because it is a main chip which will perform any specific instructions we will send through the CPU. It will be going to the ASIC. Okay, so next this is also one of the core of the embedded system. This is nothing but the programmable logic devices. This programmable PLD, PAL, this you will be learning generally in the DSD, digital system design, right? So this is that one part here. Okay, it is an electronic component which we are using to build digital circuits. If you want to build any digital circuit like AND or gate, or any other configurations we want, we can build in this programmable logic gates. If you see the diagram also, the PL, how it looks, so many lines you will have, horizontal and vertical, and at the end you will connect it to the AND gate or the OR gate. Depends upon our function, we will connect to the devices, which is in the which represents the margin in the middle of the dots, right? Generally we will do this in DSD. They will give the numbers, we need to draw the PAL or PLDs, right? So the same structure here also we are doing. It is used for building a digital circuits, okay, which will use for reconfiguration of the circuits, okay. And it is a fixed gate which is having a fixed functions, but it will not have a defined function at the rate of manufacture, because this, when PLD is defined with some particular manufacturer, we may change the function, but it is fixed toward the process, okay. So because the PLDs are very famous, because it is having high capacity, features are more, speed is more, voltage is more, okay. So it can, the customers are enjoying this PLDs because more, because if the device is having more digital circuits and we need to send so many data, so much of data we can use by using PLDs, okay. So any number of functions at a time it can do at single time, okay. Next, a variety of tools are also available in the PLDs which are inexpensive. We can develop, stimulate, test, and everything we can do. What are the major two types? CPLD and FPGA, of course. CPLD, FPGA, what it is? Complex program logic devices which is used for smaller amounts of logic up to 1000 gates, okay. Whereas field programmable for higher amount of performance, okay. Here the logic will be very high and the gates will be more with more number of functions. So depends upon the logic devices, we have to choose the PLDs, okay. Next, advantages. Of course we can do any logic functions using this. So many functions we can send at a time. It is very portable, yes, that only we can see. Once we know about PLD, we can tell our we can tell the advantages by ourselves. So now customers are very more flexible with the PLDs. There is no need to require long times for prototypes or production parts, because PLDs are also distributed cell, because PLDs are made by themselves. There is no need that we need to wait. We can make our own PLDs. Just we need to have a parts, we can build it. There is no that particular company has to release, no, nothing. So everyone can do, which who are having a basic idea of these functions, logic circuits, okay. And these PLDs can be reprogrammed, okay. When if the part is shifted to the customer, if after a piece of equipment is shifted to a customer, we can reprogram, okay. And also if you want to change any part of the PLD, it is possible, okay. That is the advantages. Next is a commercial off the shelf component. It is also one of the component which we are using. COTS, commercial off the shelf product, which is used as hyphen is, okay. Here we are using this commercial off the shelf components to develop a general purpose or domain specific process or an ASA. These are all the specifications, all the functions are same. All these devices are used to do a domain and application specific process only. We can use anything, that is our wish. So like ASICs, PLD, this is also one commercial off the shelf component. But each and every device will have some difference in the performance. The performance will be different, but the process is same. The main thing is same, right? So PLDs, there we are using digital circuits and we are using gates and we are performing. Whereas ASIC is a microchip, whereas PLD is not a microchip. Okay, so that is nothing but the design may be different, but the use is the same. Here COT is also a one chip, it is also a one microchip. It is used to do same the specific functions of the data, and also it is available in the market. Okay, it is more available in the market, and we can develop, and we can cut down the cost of this COT. And what is the disadvantages is the manufacturer of this COT may withdraw the product or discontinue the product of the COT if the rapid change in technology occurs. Of course, this is a problem for every device. So we need to update according to the technology. So if the person who is making this COT may withdraw this product because he may have some other good in some other product. Okay, so as the technology is changing, so it is not compulsory that it will produce the same type of products to you. So that is the main disadvantage of this product. What is the main advantages available in the market? Okay, next, of course, about memories. So we have learned, we know about memories, RAM, ROM. We used to study uh, from uh, engineering first year, schooling days. At least we know something about memory. Okay, every device should have a memory, whether it is phone or a computer or any device, it should have a memory. The memory, without memory, the device is like a brainless only. See, if the human being is also, if the human being is not having memory, then what happens? We can't do the work properly, right? And we don't know what we are doing also. Today we will do one thing, tomorrow, yesterday what we have done, if we are not knowing, then how it possible to continue the work. The same thing for every device also, we should have a memory. So memory, RAM and ROM, we have in RAM we have a ERAM. So that all we will go into the next process. Here in this we will learn about the memory. Okay, so here even the embedded system is also having a memory. It may be on chip and off chip. On chip is inbuilt, off chip is we need to, if you want to add, we are not we are thinking that it is not sufficient which is there in the device. We need more memory, so we can add by using this register stack. We can use this memory devices and we can add it. So here we are using when on chip memory, it will be fast than off chip, because the on chip memory is very small than the off chip memory, because it is inbuilt, no need to adjust, like they only give it, and it is very small. So so it will be, generally the instructions will be very fast in going in on chip compared to an off chip. Okay, so usually it takes at least two input or output as an external data address lines. So we have every, where there is a memory, there will be lines called address lines and data lines, right? What are the address lines? Address lines are the lines which shows the address of the data, right? So much data we are sending, so much data we are sending to the memory, and any data we want to check, how you will check without knowing any knowledge of the address, right? Because so much of data, so we need to refer all the data again. This is a waste of time. So for that we need to have an address for each and every memory. The address, it may be a number wise or it may be in any, but each memory data will have, the data which we are sending will have an address that will be sending to an address lines. Once the data is reached, the address will also given reached there, giving some address to that data. That is common in a memory. Okay, so So here the data we are using in RAM and the program is stored in ROM. So this is very important point. Already this point we have discussed in before topic, RAM and ROM. So already always the program will be stored in ROM, read only memory, because the program will always be in code language. So the program should not be changed. Once the program we send, it is correct to do some application, it is fixed. Again we can't change unless until we keep another new ROM and do all that, because the ROM program is nothing but the fixed format which we are following through all the process once we have find with the code. So we can't change this line is wrong, again change it. No, it's not possible once the code is sent to the ROM. Okay, so that's why the program will be in a code language. The code language cannot be changed. That's why it will be stored in a ROM. Read only memory, we can only read. Whereas in RAM, random access memory or read and write memory also they call it as. We can read and we want to change, we can write. But here the data will not be in code. It will be in general language which we can understand. It will not be in a code language. So the data generally will be in a RAM is of in a database, whereas in ROM it is a program wise. Okay. Next, the ROM, EEPROM and flash memory are only read only type memories, right? Very important. Random ROM, read only memory low, there are two categories. EEPROM, electrically programmable ROM. Next is flash memory. Okay, so we will learn detail about electrical EEPROM, what is flash memories. Flash memory is very important, EEPROM also. Flash memories we will use in digital camera, everywhere we are using it. But the use of this flash memory is very high. Okay, so that is about ROM. So once the same thing he is saying, once the code is fixed, it cannot be changed. Once it is loaded into the memory, it cannot be changed. Okay, whereas a ROM is programmed at the factory and cannot be changed. Okay, that's what. Next, nowadays the new microcontrollers are coming with EEPROM or flash instead of ROM. See, so because in order to avoid that disadvantage, sometimes the user may want to change the program because it is saying it is fixed. So at that time we need to have some alternative. So at that time, nowadays the microcontrollers are having EEPROM, means we can erase electrically erasable PROM instead of flash memory. Flash memory, once we go into a flash memory, it will in a flash of the second it will bind the data, it will erase the data very fast. That is about the flash memory. Even in the ROM also you can it can delete the data. That is the main highest technology now we are having. Okay, nowadays all the microcontrollers are coming with EEPROM. Okay, EEPROM, erasable PROM, we can erase the data. Next, there are two types of memories in a RAM. Again, static RAM and dynamic RAM. We call it as SRAM and DRAM. Okay, what is the difference between SRAM and DRAM? So as long as the power is there will be a data in the chip. But if the power is off, the content will be lost. That is a SRAM. Okay, you understood? Once we have sent some data to the static RAM, if it is a static RAM, as long as the power is there, it will be there in the chip. As the power is off, then it will be lost. Means there is no backup for this. That is the main disadvantage of this SRAM. Okay. Next comes a DRAM. It is totally different from SRAM. It will have the data for lifelong Okay, whatever we are sending or doing some instructions, even when the power is not there, we can see the data. Okay, so this DRAM is extremely short data lifetime, usually less than the quarter of second. So short data lifetime means varies less time, quarter of the second it will be there. That is true when the power is applied constantly. Okay, when the power is there, it will be there the data, but it will be there only the quarter of the second. And DRAM controller is used to make DRAM because more like SRAM. There's no difference between DRAM or SRAM, he is saying. But what is the thing is, it will be there in the quarter of the second in DRAM. Okay, and the DRAM controller repeatedly refresh the data stored in the DRAM. The DRAM controller will refresh the data which is stored in DRAM. When we are refreshing the data several times, the DRAM controller will live for a long time because the memory will be empty. So it will be there for a long time. That is the main advantages. Whereas in SROM, there is no use of changing or refreshing the data. It is a dynamic. Okay. So this is a memory family. So various forms of system memory. So already we know that internal RAM is connected to the microcontroller, RAM at system on chip or external RAM, internal cache at microprocessors, external RAM chip, flash, EEPROM, electrically erasable PROM, programmable ROM, ROM or PROM. These are all external devices which we can attach to the controller or the processor. Next, so this is about the memory only, RAM and DRAM, data memory. So we can go through the same points. Next, memory in the program storage memory. So of course we are storing the program in ROM. Okay, and ROM is a volatile or non-volatile. It is generally called as non-volatile. Right? Why? Because even on the power off, the data will not be lost. Right? So ROM is called a non-volatile storage device where we are sending the program to that device and we are saving without any change. So depends upon the fabrication, erasing and programming technique, we are having the types of memory. Okay, fabrication is nothing but depends upon the type of design and uh, design and also using of devices in it, and erasing and programming depends upon these three factors we have. First one is the masked RAM. This is nothing but one time programmable. Only once we can change the memory. Programmable memory. Programmable memory means we can change the program only at one time. Okay, we are using this technology only for storing the data. Okay, that's why it's not so famous, but it is one of the family. This is used for small applications. Okay, so this device is factically programmed by masking and metallization process, like VLSI, CMOS and DMOS. There we can use, this used for mask run, there we will be using. Okay, so what is this main advantages of this MRAM? It is low cost for high volume. More you will get with the low cost. Production is also more and it is least expensive, but it is only used for one time programming, which is okay, you can use it by the end users. Next type is programmable read only memory, or it is also called OTP. So programmable read only memory, it is not pre-programmed by the manufacturer. Means he will not give you he will not give you, the manufacturer will not give you any programming in that. I already told, once the ROM means the programming will be stored by the owner, so the user can't change. But here, that's what, when the user cannot change, that is a problem. Sometimes it is very urgent that we need to change the code. At that time this ROM is not possible with the ROM. That's why we are going to a programmable ROM. So there the person is not giving you program. He is directly giving the chip, you program and yourself. Okay. So now the end user who is using this PROM has to program this device, not the owner. Okay. So that is the difference of a ROM and a PROM. Programmable means we can do programming part using this ROM. Okay. So PROM has nicron on polysilicon wires which are arranged in a matrix. These wires can be functionally viewed as fuses. So same like PLDs and PALs, also we have a horizontal and vertical lines. For this PROM also we will have this wires and we will have a fuses. So according to the program we will fix the fuse to that wires. So once it is programmed by the programmer, it will burn the fuse according to the bit pattern which is stored. The program which is given by the user, once the user has given, it directly goes and burns the fuse and gives you the data. Okay. So fuses here which are not blown or burnt represent as logic 1, which are burnt represent as 0. Okay, and the default state is logic 1. Okay, now this OTP or PROM is used widely for commercial production of embedded system, where we can prove and code is finalized. Okay, and the cost and solution for the commercial ports is very less. Generally this PROM will use in all our projects. Here who is the user we will use, but we are students. Generally the students programming part they can't go code, we don't know, they will say. The person who is giving the kit will program that and give you, but he is not the owner of that RAM, right? So they will be using this PRAM only. If the some changes is there, they will do it and give you. Okay. Next is a erasable, programmable, read-only memory. Erasable, the name itself, we can erase the data. Flexibility is giving erasing. And we can change the program on the same chip. Okay. And here during this development phase, code is subject to continuous changes, and using an OTP it is not economical. So what is the main thing we are erasing? We are doing new programs. If we are doing this continuously changes, that PROM is not possible. It is not economical. Okay. So EPROM, it stores the bit information by charging and floating gate of the FET. Here we are using a FET. FET is field. What is FET? Which FET we are using? The MOSFET. Okay. So here the whatever the bit information which we are storing in this EPROM programmer, which is having high voltage, which will flow into a gate properly. Okay, and we are having in this EPROM, we are having a crystal window. Okay, this window is for erasing the stored information. If the window is exposed as UV rays to a fixed duration, the entire memory will be erased. So that is the main advantage, special feature of this device. See, here in the EPROM we will have some quad crystal window. In that window generally the memory will be stored, and if you want to erase the data, we need to keep that window exposed to ultraviolet rays of the fixed duration, depends upon the size of the data. Once it is exposed, the data will be lost or erased. Okay, so that is erasable programmable read-only memory. Next comes programmable storage memory, which is called a flash memory. Flash memory, I already told, within the seconds it can erase the data very fast. Flash memory is a variation of EEPROM. That is nothing but electrically erasable EEPROM. Electrically erasable programming ROM. Okay. This flash is the latest ROM technology, and it is most popularly ROM technology today in embedded system. Flash memory is there everywhere. Okay. So it is a combination of EEROM and ROM also, it is same. Okay, we can electrically erase the data, we can store the data, both are possible, so flexible. Okay, and here in a flash memory we are storing the information in the form of gates, MOSFET and transistors. Now the erasing of this memory can be done at sector level, so no problem. So it is having the flash memory is of high range, so we need to have some division part so that it divides in a particular way. Now what is the typically erasable capacity of flash memory is in the order of 1000 cycles. So 1000 cycles also it can erase. So erasing the first, but it's also having high capacity of standard ROM also. Okay, very fast technology it is, flash memory. Next, that is about before till before slides it was about ROM. So what is ROM? Random access read only memory. Read only memory, we can only read the data. It is also called non-volatile memory. Why? Because when even the power is off, the memory will not be lost. Okay, coming to EROM, coming to ROM, we have categories like masked ROM, EROM, we have EEPROM and flash memory. Okay, masked ROM, EEPROM, EEPROM, flash memory. Okay, what is masked ROM? Masked ROM is used for small devices, small particular data. Okay, for less for less applications of low data. Okay, and general ROM we are using in all the devices. Here the program is fixed. The user cannot change the data, erase the data. Okay, but if you want to reprogram, we can do in EEPROM. We can erase the data, but we are having some gates, fuses, using that we can do. But erasing, or for erasing is not possible. Again, reprogramming is possible. In that reprogramming, if you want to do again any correction, no possible. So that's why we are going to the another device like erasable also. Okay, erasable, and we can reprogram. So that is the thing. And the flash memory, coming to flash memory, it is also having EEROM, and also it is having a standard ROM. Once the program is sent to that ROM, it will erase the data. Where we want to erase some particular changes, we can do it. We can save it. We can reprogram it, and finally we can save in a ROM, standard ROM. Okay, so both is possible. So security will also be there in ROM. So that is about the ROM family of memory. Next it is RAM, random access memory, or read and write memory we can call this. So here also this same, here also we are having this memory in microcontrollers and processors. It is a volatile memory. Power is off, the content will be destroyed. That is the main disadvantage of this RAM and VRAM. This already we discussed about the static RAM and dynamic RAM. Okay, again just we are having some points in this. Okay, static RAM stores the data in form of voltage. They are made up of flip-flops. Okay, SRAM we are having 6 transistors. This is about the structure of the SRAM, how it looks. We will have 4 transistors and we will have a flip-flop, we will have a memory cell with controlling device. Okay, so static RAM is very fast compared to a RAM. Okay, and this RAM is very fast in operation due to resistive networking. Okay, the same, but what is the thing, when the power is lost the data will be lost. It's like we are volatile only. Dynamic RAM, it stores the data in form of charge, because we will use a capacitor here. There we are not using any capacitors in SRAM. SRAM charger, we are using a in form of charge, means we are using a capacitor. Capacitor have storing capacity but indirectly charge the unit. Okay, and it also having a MOS transistor gates. Okay, the advantage of this DRAM is it is having high density, low cost compared to SRAM. Okay, now what is the disadvantages? Once the capacitor is having a leakage, what is the generally problem with the capacitor? Capacitor is a leakage problem. That's why reverse saturation current, we all will we are when we talk about diode and all, how it is having a reverse saturation. Even the capacitor charger capacitor also will have some leaking off, so that leaking off should be prevented. Why? In that leaking also we will lose some data, and also it disturbs indirectly the efficiency of the device. So we should see that the charge should not be leaked off with the time. Okay, now so here special circuits called DRAM controllers, DMA, which we are using for refreshing the operation. So once the data is sent and everything is over, we can change the capacitor, we can refresh, and we can do again start the process. So it is very flexible, DRAM. So non-volatile RAM, same, the random access memory with the battery backup. That's why it is not, even the power is off, the data will not be. So now till now we were saying it is a volatile RAM. Once the power is off, it is data is lost. So in order to remove that disadvantage, we are using a battery backup, so that it will become again like a RAM, non-volatile it is also. Okay, that's why it is calling non-volatile RAM. See the heading properly. Till now we are saying RAM is volatile, but we are making the RAM as a non-volatile. Okay, so what it is having in order to make a non-volatile? Of course it contains a static RAM, and it is also having some minute battery for providing some memory to the device in the absence of the external power. So that battery is nothing but battery backup. How we will have a battery backup in our phones, power packs, power, same like that we need to have some battery inside, which is used when the power is lost in the main circuit. Okay, so this memory and battery, they are packed together in the single chip. So that's why it is called now non-volatile, and the results of this non-volatile will save in the form of a memory for setting up of flags. Now this RAM Lifespan of this NVRAM is expected to around 10 years. Very good. So we have an example of non-volatile RAM. This DS1744 from Dallas. So this people has designed some non-volatile RAM which is of 32 KB. So it is a non-volatile RAM. Okay. Next, which type of memory selection? So which type of memory we will select for our embedded system? Of course, we need to have all type of memories. Which is more? What is the more for which memory more weightage is required, more importance is required? We will see how we will select the memory for embedded system. Now here selection of suitable memory is very much essential step in high performance application because the challenges and limited. So it is nothing but how we are selecting the data. Once so memory we are selecting means we should see first thing is the performance of the memory, how much of capacity required, to the low cost, and the device should be very small, flexible. So these are major challenges for this memory to select for the embedded systems. Okay, first we should see how much of memory it is suitable. Then we should see what are the performance level of the memory. What is the capacity required for that memory? What is the how much of cost we need to keep that memory? Everything is okay, and how it is working most critical requirements. So this is all we have to see when we are selecting a memory. Okay. So following are the factors that should be considered while selecting the memory device. First one is speed, of course, data storage size and capacity. See, so size is very important, capacity is also important. Bus width is nothing but a collection of data which we are sending from input to the output. So that should be width should be very good. If the width is wide, more number of data we can send in less time and the execution will be very fast. So bus width is also important. Power consumption should be very less, then only it is good for the device. Of course the cost should be also very less. Everyone should use a memory. So these are the major factors. Okay, so thank you. In the next slides, in the next video we will go deep about these factors. Okay, thank you.